So a common thing that we do as pros and as disc golfers in general is we cycle our discs. This is a common practice to make sure that we always have certain discs in certain slots when we need them. A lot of times where we lose a pretty key disc, it can be really detrimental if we don't have a backup. So cycling is important. I personally cycle, a couple molds, probably more than most. My Felons get cycled, my Raiders get cycled, and my Enforcers get cycled. When we look to cycle, it's really trying to kind of diversify our game while keeping the same consistent feel in our hand and on the release, so nothing really changes too much in having our timing, and everything can continue to be the same, but all we have to do is change the disc in our hand.
I'm looking around the storage closet of our new media area, and I'm trying to find subscribers, and I can only find 40% of them. Do you know where the other 60% are? If you're one of them, subscribe, and then I can get back to making this video. Thanks.
So here we have my Raiders. My Raiders are cycled often, especially in the Lucid plastic. These get cycled more. These are in the bag almost always. Because these are mainly used for forehands, but I will use them on some big turnovers and some uphill shots because they are just a little bit more on the understable side. They have a little bit more glide, and they work for me. In this more Lucid plastic, I really like to cycle from having, anywhere from one that is an absolute bomber that's kind of flippy that I can throw for some forehands as well, to one that is again, flies similar to an Evader, but just pumps and goes very, very straight. I want a little more stable than that, and then one that's a lot more stable than that, because I want to have a new one to where if I need to rip into a headwind and I need the distance that an Enforcer can't quite get, I have the Raider at the ready. So what I do often, pull some of these new ones out, or the more stable ones out, or the straighter ones out, and I'll put brand new ones in. And I'll go to courses and go to my practice rounds, and whenever I'm throwing a Raider shot, I will throw the new ones. I will start to season them in. So I'm also getting used, so I understand how my backups fly. So when they need to get cycled in, then I'll use them. And if they happen to be working perfect for the shot, they'll stay in the bag. So I still know how the ones that I took out fly because I've been throwing them for months, but then I also have these new ones that I've been practicing with for that week to really kind of help me understand, what type of shots that I might want to throw. So with these Raiders, we're gonna get a lot of different flights. I'm gonna throw these all on a backhand, and we're gonna compare them to a brand new Lucid Trespass and a Lucid Sheriff, so we can kind of see the difference on, maybe if you can't cycle like we can because we play often enough, maybe it's better to not cycle and just have different molds in the different slots. It's if you aren't playing enough, cycling probably isn't one of the best things you can do. But if you're out playing, if your time is spent on a lot of field work, cycling can be a really good thing because you're gonna hit the ground, you're gonna get scuffs, your discs are gonna beat in naturally over time. So if you have time to practice, cycle. If you maybe don't, then it might be better to diversify your bag. That feels very similar to my Proto Raiders. Very similar to my Proto Raiders. Got over on that one a little more, and that is gone. Later. Yeah. Those Sheriffs are very similar to the Proto Raiders.
Would you ever consider bagging one if you lost a Proto?
That's a really good point. I think the issue is that I have more Proto Raiders. I have those two that I have in the bag right now, and I have probably about 3 or 4 that have cycled in and out, and I get used in practice rounds and get used in field work sessions. So no, but if I wasn't in the situation I'm in, 100%. I would, if you're looking for something that is gonna complement the Raider, Sheriff is a really, really good option. I definitely think the Trespass is as well, so I don't think you can go wrong if you're really looking for something like, oh, I lost my beat up Raider. Try Trespass, try a Sheriff, and put those things straight in the bag. So we saw what some of my high speeds can compare to, but when it comes to the Felons, I have a pretty wide spectrum. I have 6 in the bag, and the only 2 that are probably similar would be these 2 Lucid X1s. But I've had one since 2018, and this one since, it's a 2019, but it's from, I started bagging it right at DDO last year. So it's gotten lots of use. It's Hulk. It's amazing. But the reason I have a Spectrum like this is because they all feel the same in the hand. The Felon rim is really comfortable both on a forehand and backhand, and I can really trust it. So when cycling these, I have a couple others that are similar to this white one. This is the most understable. If I didn't have this or I was unable to cycle, I'd be throwing probably a Maverick or a Vandal in this slot, or even potentially an Escape. But I would really focus on the Vandal because whenever I'm throwing this one, I really want to be throwing it from a hyzer and letting it turn, especially on a forehand throw. This is not made for, you know, holding straight and moving. This has a lot of lateral movement in its flight, and I really, really like it for that. I have a couple extra backups that are kind of similar, maybe not as understable, but they're close enough to where if I were to put them in the bag, I could really learn them pretty quick. And I will often go and play a wooded course where I won't bring this one and I'll bring those, so I kind of start to understand those angles and understand what thresholds I could put them on. That's why it's important to cycle. This one is probably the straightest Felon in my bag, where it doesn't have, I can really work it from, you know, right to left on a forehand and have it still have a good amount of bite at the end. This is a proto that I got from Steven Schroeder with a stock stamp, and it's amazing. It kind of goes just as far as this is, the backup to this is actually my Robo Felon, which you guys may know. Thor Bisher, thank you so much. Shout out, shout out. But this is where cycling is really good. If I didn't have this one, I know the Robo flies just the same as this, and it's really, really nice to have that, where I know I can trust and I can kind of work the disc on just at any point. I throw this for backhands, I throw this for sidearms. It's really good. If I didn't have this, I'd probably cry. But I think a stock Felon would be pretty close to this at the moment, but it might have to take a little bit of seasoning. The stock Felon might actually be closer to this early run that I've had. This is the very first Felon I got, Hot Dog and Big Germ on the back. This is just a little more than that yellow one, but this is why I like this, is because this is, you know, when I want straight but I want finish, when I want to be able to put a little more power into it and really allow the disc to work through a gap. When I throw this thing hard, it just goes straighter longer. It doesn't really have much turn, doesn't really do too much, and it is a perfect complement. And you know, I know when I need a little extra distance on that hyzer shot, this is the perfect one. Again, stock Felon would probably be right on point with this. If you found a Lucid stock one right now, this would probably fly very, very similar and would give you some confidence. Now moving on to the Felons that might be a little harder to replicate, but I have this old 2018 that I've been beating up more than that red one. This one is, again, it doesn't turn, it just goes straighter longer, but still doesn't go that far because it is Lucid X. So this is gonna be a harder one to replace. Maybe a brand new stock Lucid would be kind of similar, but you could get by. But if you have the time, beat up a Lucid X and allow it to get here. Find the flatter ones. They go a little bit farther. And you know, these two are, these are hogs. This one's similar to that red one. That's because it's just getting more and more beat up from how much I've been using it. These are just get yourself a Lucid X Felon, trust it. You don't really need to cycle these that often, especially now that I have the 2021 Glimmers. They have the lift in the middle, super overstable, utility disc. This thing, I actually probably use this for more approaches than I actually do open field shots. And I like to do the Nico LaCastro force over flex shot. And I tend to lean on this because it just works itself out. So when it comes to cycling, these are brand new Lucid X Felons, and you will get pretty much the same flight out of these. So any shot can fit. I think that's kind of the cool part about the Trilogy lineup in general, is that if I really needed to replace a disc in a pinch, I could grab maybe just one different mold and have a similar flight right away. But I know I, for one, like to have that same flight, and that's why I really tend to lean on cycling my discs rather than having multiple molds. So especially in my Raider slot, I do have some discs that I think fly very similarly. And that can lead you to ending up in a weird spot. So if I'm ever in a place where I'm between two discs, I will likely take one of those discs out of my bag, just so I know I'm picking one, leaning on it, learning it for the week, and that's the disc that I'm gonna be throwing. So it can be, you can run yourself into a lot of points where you're trying these out, you got a sheriff, you got a trespass, you got a raider, you got an enforcer in your bag, but now your raider, your sheriff, and your trespass all fly the same. After they've gotten beat up, or you use your raider a little bit more, and so it's starting to fly like the others. It can be in that point where you might want to remove some of those other discs because you have something that flies more consistent and exactly what you're looking for. So when it comes to having too many discs, really go and test, and what disc you're throwing the best is the one that you should keep in your bag. So it can be really important to evaluate your bag, you know, kind of maybe on a bi-weekly basis if you're looking at it, just to check to see if there's starting to be some serious overlap. And that can cause, I think overlap, in personal opinion, but I think overlap can cause you to make more mistakes on the course than rather having less options. Because the moment you have one disc, one option, you're gonna go out and you're gonna focus on that one shot rather than thinking about the 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 other shots that you could have potentially thrown. So that's my thought processing and what I like to do, especially when it comes to cycling discs. Hopefully that gave you guys some options on how to cycle your discs, and maybe you guys are gonna go pick up some new ones, which is always a fun thing to do. So go to dynamicdisc.com and make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. It's the best way to find content on how to become a better disc golfer. Appreciate you guys watching. Be dynamic.